One of the differences for this persuasion speech that's coming up is that you will have to utilize sources. And in order to do that, I also have to teach you about something called oral footnotes. And you guys know so we're going to talk about citing sources and footnotes for a second today, because it's, again, preparing you for the speech. So you guys know when you do a sources cited page, and raise your hand high in the air if you have done a sources cited page at some point, so I know what kind of level of experience you have. Everyone in Kingsport done a sources cited page at some point, or a bibliography? Yes, leave your hand in the air if you have utilized one of the online resources, CiteFast, BibMe, those sorts of things. Okay, good. So you guys have all done that. You know that you have to do that because if you don't, it's considered plagiarism. I'm going to give you a couple of questions here. Say I read a really awesome article and I want to summarize the article and talk about it in my speech or in my paper. So I'm not word for word citing something from the article. I just want to summarize the ideas and use it in my paper. Do I have to cite it? Yes, raise your hand. Yes, you are right. You must cite something that you summarize. What about I have a visual aid I want to put up on the board for my speech, and it's a graph that I got from a website. Do I have to provide some sort of citation for that? Yes. All the answers are yes for these. What if I have a statistic that I want to use that I got from a website? Yes. What if I have an interview that I did with someone that I want to include that information in my speech? Yes. So in essence, anytime you use an idea or information from someone else that you've not created yourself and you're presenting it in a paper or in a speech, you have to cite it. And you guys know that. That's one of the things that the university is really focusing on as a whole right now. When you do a speech, again, you have to cite that. But you're not going to write on the web page I found www. blah, 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 blah. We do something different. We include the author, the title, and the date, and then what I really should have here in parentheses is credentials. So for today, somewhere in your notes, the only thing you have to write down is oral footnote, author, title, date, and I will put oral footnote up here. Oral footnote, author, title, date, and then in parentheses, credentials. So let's say, for example, you're going to have a math test that's coming up soon. You need help with calculus. You know that there's a concept that you don't understand. This is going to seem like a really obvious answer, but you need to ask someone about this information. Are you going to ask your math teacher, or are you going to ask me? Not me, no, definitely not me. You're going to ask your math teacher, right? Yes, you're right. Well, why?
They have the credentials to know what to do.
Yeah. You know that your math teacher has the credentials. You know that your math teacher has the knowledge, right? And this seems obvious, but let's project this to the speech that you're giving. You're giving a speech. You want to give us a quote about polar bears sinking the polar ice cap, for example, and you just want to tell us that, but you don't give us the additional information about where it came from, the National Geographic or the source. We don't know that that person knows what they're talking about unless you provide us that information. So again, you have to cover your butt because you're required to provide an oral footnote, and that avoids plagiarism. But beyond that, as an audience member, if the information comes from a credible source and you don't tell us, we don't know that it's a credible source. And it doesn't have nearly the same impact as, your professor in math said you should do this, and Terrine said you should do that. And you turned right off as soon as I said Terrine said, because Terrine knows nothing about calculus. But your math professor, you're going to pay attention to that. And that is the same for quotations, statistics, all of that stuff that you provide in your own speech. You want your audience to know how credible the source is so that they pay attention to what you're saying. And that's why we include the author, the title, and the date, as well as credentials. So in your oral footnote, the things you have to include: author, title, and date. That's to cover your butt. Credentials, if they somehow don't get in there otherwise, you need to say the credentials of the person or the website or that sort of thing. We're going to do some of these in just a second. If you've done a sources cited page, the other thing that you will find is that sometimes it's hard to find all this stuff, especially when it comes to a website, right? Yes, you know that. When you're using books and stuff that's paper sources, it's always all in there. But if you look at a website, it is more difficult to find that. Let's pull up a website. Someone who gave a general informative speech, give me a topic that they used. And not snowboarding, because I've used that example way too much. What type of animation? What were the two types? Pneumatics? There it is. I love it when it pops up like that. Inverse kinematics. Okay, here's the first question. Are we going to use Wikipedia as a source when it comes to... oh my gosh, he said it's .org. Okay. Wikipedia, you guys know how easy it is to change that, right? So, and it could be your neighbor kid wanting to cause trouble and changing Wikipedia real quick before somebody catches it. So you know that that's not necessarily a credible source unless what you're looking for is general popular opinion, and then it's a phenomenal source. But that's the first thing. Second, learnaboutRobots.com. He says, okay, we'll start here. Let's see if we can find a quotation. Wow. Quotation that we would want to use and create what we would consider an oral footnote with all those things: the author, the title, the date. Okay, let's look at the second sentence here. It says, the inverse kinematics problem is much more interesting and its solution is much more useful. Say we wanted to include that sentence in our actual speech. That's what we want to include. So we have to create an oral footnote for that. So we need to find author, title, and date. You guys know where to find an author if you're going to find one. Usually at the bottom of an article. Nope. Sometimes at the top left of the article. No, this is realistically what it's like. You're like, I'm really trying, people. I'm trying to do this citation, this oral footnote, and you got nothing for me. You still have to find something. So the author would be the actual website itself, learnaboutrobotics.com. That's who you would attribute the information to. That would make sense. Title would be the title of this particular page itself, which would be Robot Inverse Kinematics. Date. Ooh, that one's even worse than author. It's very rarely there. At the bottom is where you'll find it. And I saw this copyright notice down here. Nope.
About this time.
If you find anything on this site that you feel infringes on a copyright, please let me know and I will do my best to rectify the situation. You may not copy or redistribute any of the digital images on this site without express written permission from the copyright holders. Please give credit. Look, if you use more than a line or two of text from this site. Rich Hooper. You're probably right. It is probably Rich. Rich knows what he's talking about. He's telling you what I am telling you. So you could do that. And that we could go ahead and do that. You could consider that person to be the author. The title, let's go back. And this gives my other credentials piece an example. Title would be Robot Inverse Kinematics. Date, I didn't see anything in there in terms of copyright. Usually at the bottom you'll find website updated. If you find nothing, just as if you're doing a citation on your own, you put accessed on, the date that you accessed the information. So on your own notes there, next to date, go ahead and put accessed on if needed. So if there's no date. And then credentials. So assuming what was Rich's last name? Anybody? Hooper. So we would say, according to, this is actually in my speech, according to Rich Hooper on the website Robot Inverse Kinematics, accessed on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2016. The sentence is, the inverse kinematics problem is much more interesting and its solution is more useful. Okay, that gives me author, title, and date. Here's the question. If you're an audience member and I tell you Rich said that in the article Robot Inverse Kinematics, how credible is that article? Do you know?
Well,
I don't either know. But if I didn't tell you the website that it came from, it could have been an article in a 6th grade newspaper, right? It could be, because I just gave you the author, the title, and the date. So in that parentheses where I had you write credentials, this would be one of those situations. So you'd still say, according to Rich Hooper, I was going to say, yeah, I was close. Rich Hooper, in the article, Robot Inverse Kinematics, accessed on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2016, on the website, learnaboutrobotics.com. That gives you, as an audience member, the credentials piece of it. So again, sometimes it will be there automatically when you give the author, because it will be so-and-so PhD from whatever school. Other times it won't be in there, but where the rubber meets the road is not just that you want to cover your butt as far as plagiarism goes. You want to give your audience the credentials that are needed in order to lend credibility to the source. So that's where the credentials piece comes into play. And this one is a really hard example from an online source, but the truth is this is realistic. This is how it really happens, and you have to sift through and dig through in order to create that footnote. What I'm going to do up here is give you some information and have you create, word for word, an oral footnote that you would utilize in your speech. So how can you say that? You could say, again, what you want to include, it takes 15,000 polar bears to sink the polar ice cap. It came from the National Geographic magazine in April 2013, and the author was Lawrence White. I made all of this stuff up just for this purpose, so don't go looking for the information. You might say something like, and I've already used according to. You could say instead, Lawrence White in the April 2013 National Geographic magazine states it takes 15,000 polar bears to sink the polar ice cap. So you can say so-and-so states. You can say according to. You could say, while doing my research on the polar ice cap, I identified a quote from Lawrence White in the National Geographic magazine, published in April 2013, that stated, it takes 15,000 polar bears to sink the polar ice cap. So you actually say that stuff for your audience so they know what's going on. I've done this one. I'm going to give you two options. You're going to write one on the piece of paper in front of you, word for word yourself, and then I'm going to have each one of you share. So you're each going to push the button again and say something again before class is over in the next 15 minutes. You get two options. The most popular flavor of ice cream is green tea. In an interview with Baskin & Robbins owner Nathan Robin, November 2012, author would be Nathan, title would be an interview, date November 2012. Second choice is the best pet is a chinchilla, found on the Petco website page titled Best Pets, accessed October 10th, and the author is Daniel Foe. All right? You write word for word on the piece of paper in front of you, author, title, and date in an oral footnote, exactly what you would say. So on your notes you have author, title, date, and an actual oral footnote, and that's all you have to have for these. But I'm also going to make you say it because it seems awkward to say unless you've practiced it. And if you're stuck, can you say according to? Absolutely. It works just fine. You don't have to be overly creative. You can say according to and give us all the data. That's just fine also. And in just a moment, I'm going to start with Robert in the back and go across this way and then come up to Tyler and then go across that way and up to Jessica and across that way. And then I'll start with Will in Kingsport and we'll go across that way. And everyone will push their button and say their oral footnote. That way, when you have to get up here and say it, it won't seem so weird. I've already done it once.
Do we have to use that exact quote?
You can summarize, right? Summarizing is fine. Now, don't lie for Mr. Nathan Robin. That wouldn't be good. That would also be plagiarizing, I would imagine. But
Is that an actual flavor or did you make that up?
green tea is an actual flavor of ice cream.
It sounds awful.
It's very popular in Hawaii, and it's very good. I like it. Okay, Robert, are you ready to start us off? Push your button.
The best pet is a chinchilla, stated by Daniel Foe on Best Pets of Petco website access in October 10, 2015.
Awesome. Next.
According to Nathan Robin in an interview that he conducted with Baskin & Robbins owner on November 2012, the most popular flavor of ice cream is green tea.
Very good. Next. Okay, I'll come back. Next.
According to Daniel Foe's Best Pets website page, the best pet is a chinchilla, access October.
Very good. So there's an example of splitting it up. You can do that too. It doesn't all have to be together. It needs to be around the quote, but you don't have to put it all together. Give us what you got. Waiting. Okay, give us what you got.
According to the Baskin-Robbins owner, Nathan Robbins, in November of 2012, green tea is the most popular ice cream flavor.
Nice job.
Nathan Robbins, the owner of Baskin-Robbins, said in a November 2012 interview that the most popular flavor of ice cream is green tea.
Very good. Next.
According to the Baskin-Robbins owner, Nathan Robin, during an interview in November of 2012, green tea is the most popular flavor of ice cream.
Excellent. Next.
According to Daniel Foe on the Petco website page, Best Pets, access on October 10th, 2015, the best pet is a chinchilla.
Very good.
In an interview with Baskin-Robbins owner Nathan Robin in November 2012, I was surprised when he said the most popular flavor of ice cream was green tea.